Hello there, welcome back to the Ogre, the old Git Reacts, Reviews and Off Times Reminisces. Today doing, I have no idea how you pronounce that, but the Noční Můra, Noční Můra, maybe, I don't know. I suppose I could have checked before we did this, but spontaneity, that's what I want. This is an album, or from an album that I've just purchased, but listened to a few times before I did so, because it isn't the sort of music that normally grabs me straight away. It is one of those forms of music that I need to listen to a few times before I click on the buy button or discard altogether. But in this case, it has been embraced into my clutch of little listening eggs. So I've picked one. I could have picked any, but I've picked one really at random because the whole album I like, and there's no particular. It's a sort of music where there isn't a standout track, to be honest. You know, traditional rock and roll music. We have ballads and barnstormers and what have you. Obviously nowadays, with all the genres we have, that doesn't necessarily form the key. That's rather an old-fashioned way of compiling an album, I suppose. But anyway, stop me talking bollocks right now and let's get on with it. Boom, boom, boom. Here we go. Normally, I sort of make my first comments on tracks within a minute of them starting, but I've left it a while to get the flavour of things, because the jingle jangle at the beginning, sort of, I knew what was going to come thereafter, but to get that sort of excuse me, balance of how this music was going to sound, I've left it running a little bit longer. Not that you need to know that, but if the album cover didn't give you a clear enough indication, we are talking shades of grey here. The I suppose the sort of brightness at the beginning might give you a sense of the electricity sparking down those power lines, but buzzing in the mist. But by and large, we're in a greyscape. And that doesn't mean, of course, that things necessarily dour and without feature. There's plenty of nuance to come. The first thing I noticed that I hadn't really paid attention to before is the drum patterns that are not your normal rock and roll straightforward head downs nonsense. It's there is some trips and falls in the drumming patterns that sort of make it so as it's not just a blast along. There is consideration to how the rhythm is being formed. So the picture being painted for me here is that there are some. If we use the album cover as the food for my descriptors, there were sections just gone that sort of evoke that mist, but an enveloping mist, a warm mist, if you will. Not that I've never experienced warm mist; it's always blooming freezing. But the thing with mist is it tends to smooth things out in a way, it makes things less, removes features. Whereas, excuse me, the music we're listening to now has got some jagged edge to it, and I suppose you could apply again the analogy of pulses of electricity going down those power lines, which doesn't necessarily mean they're jagged, but if you touched them, you'd certainly feel an edge. So again, it's this is if you want to stick it into a genre box, it's black metal maybe, but it's got all sorts of stuff going off here. But the backbone, I guess, is black metal, but it ain't your traditional. And what is well, yeah, we all know what traditional black metal is really, but as time goes by, that reference point is watered down more and more and more as people do their own interpretation of things. But anyway, it cracks you out your reverie, the jaggedy bits here. I was quite, as I say, I was quite comforted in a way by the drony nature that has now passed, and I'm hoping will come back. I can't remember, to be honest, whether it does, but it has got a comfort, and then you get sort of say prodded and poked by this more abrasive section. And now we have an amalgam, really. So this I've only ever listened to this album whilst doing other things, so I've not really given it any of my full attention. And now that I have, all sorts of things are being revealed to me. As I've mentioned, the drum patterns, which I hadn't noticed before, but just little nuances that are coming out, changes in pace, and as I say, I think one thing that springs to mind is, I hate to repeat myself or repeat analogies, but the mistiness of the cover. When you're in a fog or a mist, thick mist, you lose sense of direction, and you get the sense of that here. Not an accidental loss of direction with this music, but a deliberate sort of device to sort of have you thinking that the music's going one way, and then it changes, and it's not particularly abrupt or sort of stark. It is quite subtle, as it would be if you were in fog, but it's far more interesting, this music, than at first I first thought, and all the more rewarding for it, let me tell you. So I mentioned this was shades of grey earlier, and it is the case. But very often when people talk about grey music, they mean it's monotonous, without feature. Well, that's certainly not the case here. It's all very subtly done. Is it subtle? It is quite subtle. It's not the subtlest of subtleties, but they are nonetheless. The differences aren't stark by any means, but it just keeps you guessing all the way through, and it has been a revelation so far. For one, I thought this was much faster than it is, because my ears listening to it in the background have only probably picked up on the perky bits, but nonetheless, I'm finding myself not at all disappointed in that. Being somebody who does like the blast swans and whatever, occasionally let myself be drawn in by more contemplative stuff. But yeah, so at every turn here, there's something a little bit different. As I say, all the more rewarding for it. So there you go. That tone at the end, which is something that's featured throughout, was probably one of my favourite aspects of the whole track. It sort of dripped with portent. It was almost as if you were expecting a hand on your shoulder from some hooded figure somewhere. But yeah, so that was a little bit of a revelation, really, insofar, even though I've heard it a few times before. That's the first time I've sort of brushed the dust off of it and heard it in all its clarity. So, and as I say, it's far more interesting than I thought it was. So I'm going to have to give it a proper ears wide open sort of listen at some point, and this is the whole album I'm referring to now, to fully appreciate everything that's going off in it. There you go then. Okay then, click your bollocks, catch you all next time. Cheerio.